12 mysterious archaeological discoveries caught on camera that even top scientists can't explain. Hello everyone, it's great to see you again today on the Ancient History channel. Before we begin, I'd like to gently ask you just one question. Have you ever looked at this vast world and wondered whether humans truly understand everything around us? If your answer is not really, then you're in exactly the right place. My friends, across this immense planet, there exist countless mysteries that modern science has yet to fully explain. These may be strange natural phenomena, or they may be the remnants of ancient civilizations that once flourished and then vanished without a trace. They are still there, standing silently through hundreds, even thousands of years, as if quietly challenging the intellect of modern humanity. From mysterious skulls buried deep within arid deserts, to ancient tombs filled with hidden meaning in Japan, and massive structures in Egypt that inspire awe at first sight alone. What's truly astonishing is that some of these shocking discoveries sometimes appear in places no one would ever expect. They are like fragments left behind from a distant past, whispering stories of an era that once existed, once shone brilliantly, and perhaps went far beyond anything we can imagine. Time passes, dust and sand blur the details, yet some things seem almost invincible to the erosion of the ages. And it is precisely these enduring mysteries that have forced humanity to question its own history once again. So today, are you ready to travel back in time with us, return to the past, and explore the mysterious discoveries that have left the world truly stunned? If so, make yourself comfortable, because the journey ahead is sure not to disappoint. Now, let's begin with our very first discovery. The mummified cloud warriors of the Chachapoyas in the Amazon rainforest of Peru. Hidden deep within a burial cave in the Amazon rainforest of northern Peru, archaeologists have discovered a mummy belonging to the Chachapoyas culture, dating from approximately 900 to 1500 AD. Merely hearing about the location is enough to send chills down one's spine, as this region is humid and rainy year-round, conditions that normally cause organic material to decompose rapidly. Yet the paradox lies in the fact that nearly all the remains inside this burial cave are astonishingly well preserved, as if time itself had somehow forgotten this place. According to scientific estimates, this early burial cave has existed for more than 600 years. However, what truly stunned archaeologists was not just its age, but the remarkably advanced mummification techniques of the Chachapoyas people. In the harsh environment of the Amazon rainforest, preserving human bodies for centuries would seem almost unimaginable. For this reason, the Chachapoyas have long been known as the Cloud Warriors, a mysterious tribe, both fearsome and fascinating, that once lived along the Amazon during the medieval period. The Chachapoyas were a highly unusual community compared to other indigenous tribes of South America. According to ancient descriptions, they had fair skin, light-colored hair, and tall physiques. These traits have sparked many controversial theories, including the suggestion that their ancestors may have originated from Europe. Although this hypothesis remains widely debated, there is no denying that the Chachapoyas were formidable warriors. From around 800 to 1500 AD, they expanded their territory from the Amazon rainforest into the Andes Mountains, establishing a considerable regional power. However, the history of this tribe was almost completely erased. When the Inca began their invasion, most evidence related to the Chachapoyas was destroyed. Ironically, the Inca Empire itself later collapsed under the iron heel of the Spanish army in 1512. Even the name Chachapoyas was not what the people called themselves, but rather a name given by the Inca. In the Quechua language, Chachapoyas means cloud warriors, referring to the way this tribe concealed itself within the dense mountain forests, where mist and clouds linger year-round. According to archaeologist Herman Krobera, the discovery of this burial cave carries enormous empirical significance. Until now, archaeologists had never found such a large cremation cave, not only among the Chachapoyas, but among any other tribes in the region. This suggests that the site may have been part of a special funerary ritual, reflecting their profound beliefs about death and the afterlife. Even more striking are the walls surrounding the mummies. They are intricately carved with human faces and images of warriors, arranged in rows like a guarding army. To many observers, these carvings appear to have been created to repel invaders or to ward off sinful spirits daring to enter this sacred place. a nearly 7-foot skeleton in a 5,000-year-old ancient tomb in China. Around 5 millennia ago, during the Neolithic Age, people living in what is now Shandong Province, China, were already reaching heights close to 7 feet tall. Just hearing that is enough to send chills down your spine, isn't it? And this is not a legend. It is a real archaeological discovery made by Chinese researchers in recently excavated ancient tombs. The story begins in Xiaojia village, located in Jiangqiu District, Jinan City, the capital of Shandong Province, China. Since 2016, archaeologists have been quietly working at this site, gradually revealing a surprisingly vivid picture of the past. They uncovered the remains of 104 ancient houses, 205 tombs, and 20 sacrificial pits, all belonging to the Longshan culture, a civilization that flourished during the late Neolithic period and was closely associated with the middle and lower reaches of the Yellow River Basin. However, what truly made researchers sit up and take notice was what lay inside the tombs. Among the remains, archaeologists discovered a male skeleton measuring approximately 6 feet 3 inches tall. If this individual had been alive, he may have been even taller. More strikingly, examinations of other tombs revealed not just one, but several additional skeletons standing over 5 feet 11 inches tall. Placed in the context of 5,000 years ago, when the average human height was far shorter than today, such stature is extraordinarily rare. According to Professor Fang Hui, Dean of the School of History and Culture at Shandong University, this exceptional physical size was no coincidence. At the time, agriculture in the Shandong region was already quite advanced. The population had a stable food supply, especially millet, which was the region's primary grain. In addition, they raised pigs, as evidenced by pig bones and teeth found in many of the tombs. This varied, nutrient-rich diet played a significant role in shaping the physical development of the people living there. Another particularly noteworthy detail is that the tallest men were often buried in larger tombs. This suggests they may have belonged to higher social classes, enjoying better living conditions and superior access to food compared to ordinary people. As you can see, height was not merely a biological trait, it also reflected social status. Speaking of tall individuals from Shandong, later history offers a famous example: Confucius. This great philosopher was also a native of Shandong and was recorded as being approximately 6 feet 3 inches tall. Even more interestingly, in modern times, people from Shandong are still known for being taller than the national average. In 2015, the average height of 18-year-old males in Shandong reached about 5 feet 9 inches, noticeably higher than the national average of around 5 feet 7 3/4 inches. Could it be that the giant gene has persisted for thousands of years? Remarkably, it wasn't just the people. The lifestyle of ancient Shandong residents also forces us to rethink our assumptions about the Neolithic age. The remains of their homes show that they lived quite comfortably, with clearly separated bedrooms and kitchens. In 6 large tombs, archaeologists also discovered multicolored pottery and jade artifacts, indicating a highly advanced level of craftsmanship and aesthetic sophistication. According to Wang Fen, head of the Xiaojia excavation team, this area served as a cultural, economic, and political center of northern Shandong around 5,000 years ago. The Xiaojia site originally covered approximately 2.6 million square feet, later expanding to nearly 0.4 square miles. Yet so far, researchers have excavated only about 21,500 square feet, a tiny fraction compared to what still lies hidden beneath the ground. This raises an intriguing question. Beneath the layers of earth, how many more secrets about the giants of ancient Shandong are waiting to be uncovered? And if the entire site were fully excavated, might the history we know today need to be rewritten? Just thinking about it is enough to give you goosebumps, isn't it? The mysterious mummy on the icy peak of a mountain in Mexico. Amid the vast expanse of white ice atop Pico de Orizaba, the highest mountain in Mexico, located about a 5-hour drive from Mexico City, scientists made a discovery chilling enough to send shivers down anyone's spine. Deep within layers of ice dozens of feet thick, they found a human body lying completely still, motionless, with no sign of life, as if time itself had pressed the pause button long ago. It was the mummy of a man, discovered at a location approximately 1,000 feet below the mountain's summit. According to local authorities, the victim was around 25 years old and is believed to have died about 15 years ago. What unsettled many people, however, was the fact that the body had been preserved in an almost perfect state, thanks to the snow, ice, and extremely low temperatures at the mountain's peak. A natural mummy, no coffin, no burial ritual, only ice bearing silent witness to a lonely death. As soon as the news broke, speculation spread rapidly. Scientists and the public alike began asking the same questions. Who was this man, and why did he appear atop the roof of Mexico in such a strange condition? One theory suggests that he may have been a passenger in a plane crash that struck Pico de Orizaba in the 1990s. If this hypothesis is correct, his body could have been buried under snow and ice for many years, only to be revealed later as shifting glaciers carried him back into view. But the story does not end there. Many local residents immediately linked this mummy to two other bodies that had been discovered just months earlier, also on Pico de Orizaba. In the past, there had been a legend about three mountaineers who mysteriously disappeared while attempting to climb Mexico's highest peak more than 55 years ago. When two of those mummified bodies were found, many people believed that this newly discovered corpse might be the final missing figure in that unfinished story. The tale certainly sounds dramatic, worthy of a classic snowbound mountain mystery, but experts were quick to point out several inconsistencies. First, the location where this new mummy was found is completely different from the sites where the previous two bodies were discovered. The distance and terrain make it highly unlikely that all three individuals were directly connected. Moreover, the clothing worn by the newly discovered victim further weakens the mountaineer theory. The man was dressed in a white shirt, dress pants, and a gray sweater. And most strangely of all, he was not wearing any shoes. For anyone familiar with ice climbing, that detail alone is enough to raise serious doubts. No one would attempt a dangerous ascent like Pico de Orizaba dressed this way. This attire suggests that he was not a climber and may never have intended to set foot in such a harsh environment at all. For this reason, many researchers believe the man did not reach the mountain by conventional means. At present, the most plausible explanation remains that he was connected to the 1990 plane crash on Pico de Orizaba. In that tragedy, some bodies may have been thrown far from the impact site, falling onto the slopes and becoming buried under ice and snow for many years. Notably, this is already the third mummy discovered on the Pico de Orizaba glacier within just a few short months. Earlier, in March, climbers also found the bodies of two men believed to have gone missing more than 50 years ago after an avalanche. This has led many to believe that climate change and the gradual melting of glaciers are beginning to expose secrets that have been hidden for decades. So who was the young man found frozen on the mountain? An unfortunate airline passenger, or is there still more to the story yet to be revealed? The answer is still under investigation by authorities and scientists alike. One thing is certain: Pico de Orizaba is not just a mountain. It is a keeper of cold, silent stories, waiting patiently for humanity to listen. The beautiful mummy, hidden in a sealed coffin, deep in the forests of Switzerland. The next story takes us back more than 2,000 years, beginning with what seemed like a fairly ordinary excavation in 1903, near the Gentle Limit River in Zurich, Switzerland. At that time, archaeologists uncovered an ancient grave containing the skeleton of a man, surrounded by armor, swords, spears, and shields. Based on these artifacts, it was natural to assume that the burial belonged to a powerful warrior. Strangely enough, however, researchers believe this was only a secondary grave, similar to guardian burials meant to protect a main tomb, somewhat reminiscent of the terracotta army of China, though on a much smaller scale. This raised an obvious question. If this was merely a secondary grave, then where was the primary one? The answer emerged not long afterward, when archaeologists expanded their search and discovered another grave hidden deep within a dense forest, where towering ancient trees blocked out much of the sunlight. Remarkably, this tomb was located only about 260 feet from the secondary grave. When they opened the coffin, placed directly inside a hollow tree, everyone was stunned. Inside lay the body of a noblewoman, preserved almost intact, her face peaceful, as if she were merely sleeping. After examination, experts determined that the woman was around 40 years old at the time of her death and belonged to the Celtic people, a prominent civilization in Iron Age Europe. She had been buried in a tree trunk coffin, a distinctive Celtic funerary custom reserved for important members of the tribe. Her body was wrapped in multiple layers of sheepskin garments, astonishingly well preserved over thousands of years. It was this remarkable beauty and state of preservation that led the press to give her a poetic name, the Sleeping Beauty of the Forest. The grave goods buried with her further confirmed her high status. Archaeologists found bronze bracelets, a bronze belt, and most notably, an exquisite necklace made of amber and glass beads. These items were not meant for ordinary people, but clearly indicated that she belonged to the elite, possibly even the royal class of Celtic society. Even more intriguing, dental analysis revealed that she regularly consumed foods rich in sugar and starch. More than 2,000 years ago, such foods were considered luxuries, accessible only to the upper classes. Yet the question that continues to puzzle scientists the most is this: how could her body have been preserved so perfectly? Some hypotheses suggest that the unique environment of the dense forest, combined with natural substances released by ancient trees, may have slowed the process of decomposition. Others believe that the coffin's placement inside a hollow tree created a natural antiseptic environment that protected the body over long periods of time. Of course, these remain only theories, and the true explanation is still an unresolved mystery. What makes this story even more fascinating is its connection to Celtic beliefs. The Celts believed in the immortality of the soul, holding that after death, the soul would leave one body and move into another. Burial inside a hollow tree was thought to allow the soul to receive protection from a sacred tree, making reincarnation easier. Some historians have even suggested that the Celts were among the earliest cultures to recognize a degree of gender equality, although such special burial rites were reserved exclusively for the nobility. It can be said that the discovery of the Sleeping Beauty of the Forest not only shocked the archaeological world, but also opened a door for us to better understand the life, beliefs, and social structure of the ancient Celts. And who knows, beneath the ancient forests of Europe, many similar stories may still be waiting to be uncovered. What do you think about this mystery? Let me know your thoughts by leaving a comment below the video. A 300,000-year-old weapons workshop belonging to a different human species. Just think about it for a moment. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, when we now casually refer to ourselves as modern humans, could there have been others who already knew how to make weapons, select the right wood, repair tools, and even organize a full-scale workshop? If you find that hard to imagine, then come with me to the small town of Schöningen, in the state of Lower Saxony, Germany. What was discovered there may completely change how you think about humanity's distant past. At this site, archaeologists uncovered an extraordinary weapons cache, one that did not belong to Homo sapiens, but to ancient human species that existed long before our direct ancestors appeared. The most shocking detail is the age of this discovery, approximately 300,000 years old. At that time, Homo sapiens was only just beginning to emerge in Africa and was still very far from ever reaching Europe. This alone makes it clear that these sophisticated tools could not have been made by our species. The ancient weapons cache includes around 20 wooden spears and throwing lances, all crafted with remarkable care. These were not random branches snapped off in haste, but the result of deliberate selection, careful shaping, and intentional refinement. The artifacts show that prehistoric humans had a deep understanding of the properties of different types of wood, knowing which woods were best suited for hunting weapons, which could withstand the stress of long-distance throwing, and which were strong enough for powerful thrusting attacks. According to Dr. Dirk Leder of the Lower Saxony State Office for Cultural Heritage, ancient humans living in this area collected large quantities of spruce and pine wood. They did not cut trees at random. Instead, they selected straight, high-quality trunks and transported them to a fixed location to be fashioned into spears and throwing sticks. In other words, this site was not merely a storage area for weapons. It was a true workshop where prehistoric people both manufactured new tools and repaired damaged ones after hunting expeditions. So who were the creators of this 300,000-year-old workshop? That question remains unanswered. While scientists have not yet been able to attribute the site to a single specific species, the Schöningen area has long been known as a place once inhabited by Neanderthals and several other ancient human species within the Homo genus. At that time, Homo sapiens had not yet left Africa, making it impossible for our species to have played any role in this technological achievement. Among ancient human species, Neanderthals are particularly well known for their advanced skills in crafting tools, weapons, and even jewelry. skills that many consider remarkably ahead of their time. They were not limited to working with stone, but also exploited wood in a highly intelligent and systematic way. Notably, Neanderthals even possessed larger brains than modern humans, although their brain structure and cognitive functions differed in certain respects. Because of this, the discovery at Schoningen has forced scientists to reconsider the evolutionary history of humankind. 1,000-year-old teenage mummy reveals the pre-Inca world. Hidden beneath what seemed like undisturbed soil on the outskirts of Lima, Peru, a secret more than a millennium old was suddenly brought back to light, sparking curiosity among archaeologists and history enthusiasts alike. This is the story of a juvenile mummy that had lain silently for over 1,000 years, until its discovery on April 24, 2023. It was not a loud or dramatic find, yet it was powerful enough to open a doorway that takes us back in time, into the mysterious world of pre-Inca civilizations. The mummy was found inside an underground tomb, carefully wrapped within a well-organized funerary bundle. What truly surprised scientists was the mummy's remarkably intact state of preservation. According to archaeologist Yomira Huaman, who led the research project at the Cajamarquilla Archaeological site, the mummy's condition was assessed as very good. This exceptional preservation has provided a rare opportunity to study in greater depth the daily life, customs, and spiritual beliefs of the ancient people who once lived here. Surrounding the mummy, archaeologists uncovered a wide range of funerary offerings, including pottery, ropes, as well as preserved fragments of skin and hair. Each item was more than a simple burial object. Together, they formed pieces of a narrative describing the rituals used to guide the deceased into the afterlife. Through these artifacts, we gain insight into how ancient peoples understood life and death, and into their deep spiritual worldview. When people think of Peru, they often immediately picture the Inca Empire and the majestic peak of Machu Picchu. However, long before the Inca rose to power, this land was home to many other ancient cultures, notably the Lima and Ichma civilizations. The mummy discovered at Cajamarquilla has been dated to approximately 1,100 to 1,200 years old, meaning it existed long before the height of Inca dominance. This further confirms Cajamarquilla's importance as a living archive of the pre-Inca era. Even more striking is the fact that this teenage mummy was found only about 650 feet away from another mummy previously discovered at Cajamarquilla. In the same area, archaeologists have also uncovered numerous remains of both children and adults. These findings have led to the hypothesis that the site may once have been a significant burial ground, possibly even associated with ancient sacrificial rituals. Cajamarquilla itself is far from a minor site. It was once one of the largest cities of ancient Peru, distinguished by 4 pyramids and numerous structures built from mud bricks. Covering a vast area, Cajamarquilla is considered the second largest mud brick city after Chan Chan, located only about 12 miles from Lima. In its time, it was a thriving commercial center where people from the coastal regions and the Andean highlands gathered to trade goods and exchange cultural influences. For this reason, the discovery of this more than 1,000-year-old mummy not only adds another crucial piece to the historical puzzle of Peru, but also serves as a reminder that beneath every layer of earth, countless untold stories still lie hidden. And who knows, perhaps in the next excavation, yet another secret from the past will be revealed, forcing us to rethink the journey of human development from an entirely new perspective. If that happens, what could be more exciting than that? 3,000-year-old hanging coffins on cliff faces in China. Did you know that amid the sheer rocky mountain ranges of Gongxian, Sichuan Province, China, where thick mist lingers year-round, there exists a sight that sends chills down the spine while stirring deep curiosity? It is the haunting image of ancient wooden coffins suspended in mid-air along nearly vertical cliff faces, as if time itself had left them hanging there. These coffins are not buried underground, nor are they sheltered by tomb roofs. Instead, they are supported by only 2 or 3 wooden beams driven deep into the rock face, defying everything we typically understand about human burial practices. Seen from a distance, they resemble ghostly shadows of the past, silently watching the flow of time. The closer one gets, the heavier the sense of mystery becomes. No one knows exactly how ancient people managed to lift these massive coffins to heights of dozens of feet above the ground using such primitive technology. And the bigger question remains, why did they choose such an extraordinary method of burial in the first place? According to researchers, these hanging coffins belong to the Bo people, a mysterious ancient tribe that once lived in this region but disappeared roughly 400 years ago. They left behind very few traces of their existence, but these cliffside cemeteries stand as the clearest evidence of a truly unique culture. Each coffin was hollowed out from a single large tree trunk, simply crafted yet sturdy enough to withstand harsh weather and the passage of time. What is particularly astonishing is that the coffins do not all date from the same period. Some are as old as 3,000 years, while the most recent ones are still about 400 years old. This means the hanging burial tradition was maintained across many generations, rather than being a short-lived or impulsive practice. So what were the Bo people thinking when they chose to suspend their dead on cliff faces? While no definitive answer exists, many scholars believe this was not merely a burial custom, but a ritual imbued with deep spiritual meaning. In their worldview, high mountains were considered the places closest to the heavens and the gods. Placing the deceased there was believed to protect the soul and help it merge more easily with the supernatural realm. Beyond spiritual beliefs, this burial method also had practical advantages. Hanging coffins high above the ground helped protect the bodies from wild animals, flooding, and moisture, constant threats in mountainous regions. Above all, however, it reflected a profound belief that the souls of the departed would be blessed, remain at peace, and live alongside the mountains through the ages. Standing before these suspended coffins, it is hard not to wonder, do people today, with our skyscrapers and modern cemeteries, truly understand how our ancestors confronted death? The hanging coffins of Gongxian, though now silent remnants, continue to tell a story of reverence, belief, and a longing to connect with the afterlife, belonging to a culture that has long since vanished. And perhaps it is precisely this silence that allows the mystery to endure through time. Giant geoglyphs that defy time in the Peruvian desert. More than 2,000 years ago, under the scorching sun and across the seemingly lifeless arid landscape of the Palpa Desert in Peru, an ancient civilization quietly left behind traces that continue to astonish modern humanity. Not grand palaces or massive stone statues, but enormous drawings stretching across hillsides, lying silently through millennia, as if waiting for someone to decipher the stories they tell. Recently, near the town of Palpa, archaeologists discovered 25 additional ancient geoglyphs believed to have been created by the Paracas people. This discovery not only stunned the scientific community, but also opened a new window through which to re-examine a civilization that once thrived in this harsh environment. What immediately inspires awe is the scale and subject matter of these images. Etched into the barren, rocky ground are figures of a woman, a dancing monkey, mysterious symbols that remain difficult to explain, and most strikingly, an orca, a semi-divine totem in Paracas belief. Unlike the famous Nazca lines, which can only be fully appreciated from the air, the geoglyphs of Palpa possess a distinct character of their own. They were carved directly into hillsides and are large and clear enough to be seen even by observers standing at ground level. This has led many to wonder whether the Paracas intended these images not only for the gods above, but also for people on Earth to see, remember, and reflect upon. The use of modern unmanned aerial technology, drones, played a crucial role in identifying these geoglyphs. By combining aerial perspectives with detailed data, archaeologists were finally able to clearly recognize their full shapes and precise locations. In a sense, modern technology has unexpectedly joined hands with the past, awakening heritage sites that had lain dormant beneath the desert sun and wind for thousands of years. Yet the more we discover, the more questions arise. Why have these images endured so remarkably well, despite the passage of time and the harsh natural environment? Why did the Paracas choose to create such large-scale figures, investing enormous effort and manpower simply to carve them into rock and soil? Were they religious symbols, ritual markers, or messages intended for future generations? To this day, science has no complete answers. What cannot be denied, however, is that these geoglyphs have helped illuminate the rich and mysterious historical tapestry of pre-Columbian Peru. They reveal that the Paracas were not merely a people struggling to survive in extreme conditions, but a society with sophisticated symbolic thinking, deep spiritual beliefs, and an astonishing capacity for social organization. So what story do these giant drawings truly wish to tell? Are they prayers offered to the gods, spiritual maps, or timeless messages left behind by ancient people for us today? As for me, I believe the answer still lies somewhere in the vast Palpa Desert, waiting patiently for the day it is fully revealed. 1,000-year-old sacrificial dog remains in Peru, reveals soul-guiding ritual that shocks archaeologists. Can you believe that beneath the seemingly peaceful grounds of Parque de las Leyendas in Peru, a zoo where children still come to see animals and families stroll on weekends, lies a chilling secret from the past? Hard to imagine, right? But it's true. An archaeological excavation here accidentally opened a window into the past, taking us back roughly 1,000 years to witness a strange and haunting funerary ritual of ancient Peruvians. Specifically, archaeologists discovered an ancient tomb containing not only human remains, but also the bones of approximately 10 dogs buried at the same time, and what sends shivers down one's spine is the condition of these remains. The dogs were not scattered randomly. Their legs were tightly bound, and traces of collars or ties could be seen around their necks. These details suggest that this was far from a typical burial. It was very likely a deliberate sacrificial ritual. The excavation, conducted over the course of a year from 2012 to 2013, yielded results that stunned researchers. In total, 134 human skeletons and more than 138 dog skeletons were uncovered, all dating back about 1,000 years. These numbers indicate that this was not an isolated incident, but part of a repeated cultural practice linked to the Ixma civilization, which thrived in this region from roughly 900 to 1470 CE. What makes this find particularly remarkable is that in most ancient Peruvian cultures, dogs were rarely buried so intimately with humans. They might be buried separately or not participate in funerary rituals at all. Yet among the Ixma, the practice seems entirely different. The dogs were placed alongside the deceased, not in separate cemeteries, as if they played a very special role in the journey to the afterlife. According to researchers, including Lucinita Carrion, the head of the excavation team, the animals were tied to stones with collars around their necks, strongly suggesting that they were sacrificed. But why sacrifice them? This remains the biggest question, with no definitive answer. The most widely accepted hypothesis is that the dogs were regarded as spirit guides, helping the souls of the deceased cross the boundary between life and death and find their way smoothly to the afterlife. From this perspective, what appears to be a cruel ritual actually carries deep spiritual meaning. For the Ixma, dogs were not just domestic animals, they were bridges between two worlds. Sacrificing them may have been seen as a necessary act to ensure that the deceased could complete their journey in the afterlife. To this day, the exact purpose of this ritual remains a mystery, yet one thing is undeniable. This discovery gives us a clearer understanding of the beliefs, customs, and the special relationship between humans and animals in ancient cultures. And who knows, beneath the steps we take today, there may still be countless untold stories quietly waiting under layers of soil and time. Quite likely, don't you think? 2,000-year-old treasure in a Western Han tomb reveals the extraordinary wisdom of ancient China. Some archaeological discoveries are enough to give you goosebumps just by hearing about them, and the story that began on June 23, 1968, is a perfect example. On that day, on the eastern slope of Lingshan Mountain, about 0.9 miles from Mancheng County, Baoding City, Hebei Province, China, a team of engineers from the People's Liberation Army was digging tunnels as part of their routine work. Unexpectedly, just a few shovelfuls into the mountainside, they accidentally opened a door to the past, over 2,000 years ago. Hidden within the mountain was the nearly intact tomb of Prince Jing of Zhongshan, Liu Sheng, a powerful noble of the Western Han dynasty, along with his wife, Lady Do. Liu Sheng passed away in 113 BCE after 42 years of ruling Zhongshan. He was not only famous for his power and wealth, but also for his abundant family life, having 22 children and as many as 120 grandchildren. Naturally, his tomb was constructed on a grand scale, befitting one of the most prominent nobles of his time. What made this tomb particularly remarkable is that both Liu Sheng and his wife were placed in separate caves carved directly into the mountainside. Each cave had two distinct sections. one for the coffin and a larger main chamber to display burial objects. When archaeologists entered, they were faced with a genuine treasure trove. Over 2,700 cultural artifacts were discovered, ranging from exquisitely carved jade, gold-plated bronze censers, to everyday utensils such as pots, kettles, pans, bowls, and various food containers. The sheer quantity and craftsmanship gave the impression that Liu Sheng had only just stepped away, leaving behind a life of luxury still in progress. Yet among all these treasures, one artifact drew particular attention from researchers: a barefooted bronze cauldron. At first glance, the cauldron is elliptical in shape, 7.1 inches tall, 6.8 inches in diameter, with a belly width of roughly 7.9 inches. Not overly large, but extremely eye-catching. Its three legs are cast in the shape of squatting bears with smiling faces, full of life and artistry, truly hard to look away from. What makes this cauldron extraordinary, however, is its lid design. The lid has four small animal-shaped brackets that lock the body of the cauldron tightly, creating an almost airtight system. This mechanism is reminiscent of a modern pressure cooker. According to Shuowen Jiezi, a Chinese dictionary compiled by Xu Shen in the early 2nd century CE, this type of three-legged, double-handled bronze cauldron was used for cooking food and holding spices, functioning much like advanced cooking tools today. Now imagine, in an era when metallurgy and manufacturing technology were still extremely limited, ancient craftsmen were able to create a bronze cauldron with such a sophisticated lid-locking mechanism, even capable of sealing tightly with a gasket. Isn't that truly remarkable? Thus, the barefooted bronze cauldron was not just a household item or a burial object. It stands as a vivid testament to the wisdom, creativity, and technical skill of ancient Chinese artisans. In fact, this discovery has prompted scholars to reevaluate the technological achievements of the Western Han period. The Bronze Age treasure, sleeping in the forests of Sweden. Sometimes, a seemingly ordinary walk can unexpectedly turn into a moment that changes history, and the story of Thomas Carlson, a Swedish cartographer, is a perfect example. While wandering through the quiet forests of Sweden, Thomas stumbled upon some unusual objects hidden beneath the soil. Curious, he began to dig to see what lay beneath. At first, he thought they were simply old junk, perhaps items someone had long forgotten. But the more he examined them, the more he realized something was off. These objects were far from rough or broken. Instead, they were exquisitely crafted, with surfaces still remarkably well preserved and sharp, precise details that seemed almost impossible for their age. For a moment, Thomas even suspected they might be modern forgeries buried intentionally. Even without certainty, he did something extremely important. He reported the discovery to the authorities, following Swedish regulations. That decision led to one of the most remarkable archaeological discoveries in recent years. Soon, historians and archaeologists from the Cultural Heritage Administration, working with Gothenburg University, arrived at the site. After careful investigation, they reached a conclusion that amazed many. This was an actual Bronze Age treasure. The hoard consisted of approximately 50 artifacts, mostly jewelry and items related to funerary rituals. They date from roughly 750 BCE to 500 BCE and, remarkably, remained almost completely intact after over 2 millennia underground. According to Professor Johan Ling of Gothenburg University, most of the artifacts likely belonged to a high-status woman in ancient society. At that time, Sweden was a major center of metalwork in Scandinavia, home to thousands of skilled craftsmen. Owning such finely made and precious jewelry would have required substantial wealth, indicating that the treasure's owner was not an ordinary person, but likely someone of power or great influence. However, the treasure also raises many intriguing questions. The first is why these valuable objects were buried in the middle of a forest. In ancient Scandinavian customs, ritual offerings or important items were usually buried near lakes or ponds as a mark of respect to the gods. Placing them deep in the forest went against common practice. Adding to the mystery, the hoard included an unusual item, a horsewhip. Notably, this type of whip had previously been found only in Denmark, almost never in Sweden. This detail raises questions about trade, cultural exchange, or even intermarriage between Bronze Age communities in Northern Europe. The 7.5 feet sword and mysterious bronze mirror in a 1,600-year-old Japanese tomb. Hidden beneath the city of Nara, Japan, for over 16 centuries, the Tomio Maruyama burial mound has unexpectedly revealed secrets that have left archaeologists astounded. At the end of November last year, during excavations at the site, researchers discovered two extraordinary artifacts: an iron sword over 7.5 feet long and an ancient bronze mirror with an unusual shape. From the very first moment, it was clear these were not ordinary objects. They were keys to understanding the spiritual world of Japan more than 1,600 years ago. The Tomio Maruyama burial mound is believed to have belonged to a noble figure closely connected to the Japanese imperial family in the 4th century CE. It is also one of the largest tombs ever discovered in Japan, built during the Kofun period, a time known for its massive burial mounds and complex political and social networks. The sheer scale of the tomb reflects the high status and power of its occupant. However, what has captured global attention is the enormous sword. This weapon is a Dako-style sword, featuring a wavy, curved blade that resembles traditional knives from Indonesia. At over 7.5 feet in length, it is twice as long as any sword previously found in ancient Japanese tombs. The natural question arises: who could wield such a massive and heavy sword? Archaeologists suggest the answer is likely no one. The Dako sword was not intended for combat. It was a ritual object, placed in the tomb to protect the deceased from malevolent spirits in the metaphysical realm. At that time, people believed the boundary between life and death was fragile, and unseen forces constantly threatened the souls of the dead. Symbolic objects like the giant sword were considered powerful protective talismans. But the sword was not the only remarkable item. In the same tomb, archaeologists discovered an ancient bronze mirror shaped like a shield. According to archaeologist Riku Murase from the Nara City Archaeological Research Center, this mirror likely served a protective function similar to the sword. In ancient Japanese culture, mirrors were not merely reflective tools. They were believed to ward off evil spirits, repel dark forces, and weaken malevolent powers. The combination of the Dako sword and the bronze mirror reveals the deep spiritual beliefs of ancient Japanese society. People believed that even after death, the soul could be disturbed, and supernatural objects were needed to safeguard it. Furthermore, archaeologist Stefan Mader proposed an intriguing theory. The sword's wavy shape may symbolize dragons or serpents, creatures associated with divine power, magic, and spiritual authority in ancient Japanese culture. Viewed this way, the sword was not only a protective tool, but also a symbolic bridge between the living and the spiritual world. It reflected the belief that supernatural forces would guard the deceased and simultaneously affirmed Japan's special place in the cosmic order of the time. Through these artifacts, lying undisturbed for 1,600 years, we gain a glimpse into how ancient people perceived death, the afterlife, and the central role of spiritual belief in their lives. It must be said that the ancient world in general, and archaeology in particular, are among the fields holding the most secrets, so many that humanity still hasn't been able to fully decode them. These mysteries include not only enigmatic mummies, but also bizarre events that send chills down your spine. So, among the discoveries we've discussed, which one impressed you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel so you won't miss more fascinating discoveries. For now, thank you for watching, and see you next time.